Guys, so last time's discussion, we said this that when you look at productivity, initially output rises at a faster rate, then output rises slowly, and then output could fall. The reason why output rises at a faster rate initially is basically because of the fact that we have what we call increasing uh, increasing marginal product, right? And that is basically the idea that, like when you look at increasing marginal product, is basically when you are utilizing your resources properly. Isn't that true, guys? So when you're utilizing your capital properly, or when there's division of labor happening, this is what we call increasing MP to take place. And then law of diminishing returns sets in, where the fixed factor becomes a constraint, and the results in output to rise but slowly, right? And then when MP becomes negative, output actually falls. Because MP is increasing initially, marginal cost is falling. And then MP is falling, marginal cost is increasing. In fact, the reason why marginal cost rises is because of the law of diminishing return, which says that as you keep on adding more worker, MP falls. When MP falls, marginal cost goes up. What about total cost? Total cost, the slope of total cost is marginal cost. And because marginal cost is falling, total cost is increasing at a slower rate. And then marginal cost is rising, which means total cost is increasing at a faster rate. So what happens in production has a implication on cost. And that's exactly why when MP is at its maximum, MC is at its lowest. So maximum point of MP means the minimum point of MC. Or when output is rising faster, cost is rising slowly. When output is rising slowly, cost is rising faster. So there's this inverse kind of a relationship that is taking place when it comes to production and cost. Today's discussion will focus on two things. Number one is looking at total variable cost. We didn't draw the diagram for total variable cost. Look at this, guys. If I clean this up, there's too much of mess here. If you look at the difference between total cost and total variable cost, guys, what do you see to be the difference between total cost and total variable cost? Why are they different? Anyone? Why are they different, guys? What's the difference between them? Total cost and total. Very good job, Isha. It's a fixed cost, right? Total cost minus total variable cost is the fixed cost. And if you look at this changes by 60, this changes by 60, this changes by 60. So in other words, can I say this? Total variable cost is actually total cost minus fixed cost. So in other words, it looks like this. This is how my total variable, it has the same slope. It's only $75 lower. So that is the difference between them is my total fixed cost. And the gap of the fixed cost is $75. So in other words, if somebody asks you, what's the slope of TVC? The answer will be MC. Why? Because TC and TVC are the same thing except for fixed cost missing. Do we agree with this? Does that make sense, guys? So total variable cost and total cost have the same shape, barring the $75 missing, which is the fixed cost, because total cost is equal to total variable cost plus total fixed cost. So variable cost plus fixed cost is your total cost. Make sense, guys? What I'm saying is that the gap between total cost and total variable cost is total fixed cost. If I total variable cost plus total fixed cost, which is $75, is your total cost. So the graph is the same. The shape is the same. So the slope of, so these are parallel to each other, which means the slope is the same, which means the slope of TVC is also MC. Okay, so I'm saying this, that the slope of the marginal cost is also the slope of TVC and TC, both total cost and total variable costs. That's what I'm saying. Make sense, guys? Do we agree? Yeah. So if we move on, are we going to move on? Okay. If we move on, guys, look at what is happening now. Now let's look at, so we're done with all of these. Now let's look at average fixed cost. Okay, what is the average fixed cost? Average fixed cost is simply fixed cost over quantity. If you look at this, quantity keeps on going up, fixed cost is the same, which means I can say this, that as quantity goes up, since fixed cost is the same, average fixed cost will fall. And that's exactly what is happening. Average fixed cost was 2.5, then 0.83, 0.58, and all the way to 0.41. So in other words, average fixed cost का diagram अगर मैं बनाऊं, so my fixed cost would look like this. So if I draw my fixed cost, that's $75, that's quantity. So my fixed cost will look like this. But my average fixed cost, guys, will look like this. So as quantity rises, average fixed cost will fall. Make sense, guys? Do we agree? Do we agree with the average fixed cost? Because look at this, guys. 75 divided by, let me go back to the table. 75, this 2.5 is basically 75 divided by 30 is 2.5. 75 divided by 90 is 0.83. And similarly, 75 divided by 185 is 0.41. Okay, so average fixed cost continuously decline as you make more and more of the quantity. Right? Am I good to move on? Okay. Now, what about average variable cost? What's the formula for average variable cost? It's like average cost per unit. So it's like total variable cost divided by quantity of output, right? So for example, what is the total variable cost? And the answer is this, that it's going to be 60 divided by 30 or 2. 120 divided by 90 is 1.33 and so on. So in other words, average variable cost, I want you guys to focus here. Can you guys all pay attention, guys? If you look at average variable cost, this is the trend. Average variable cost is going down and then starts to go up. Isn't that true? And average total cost, first of all, you can see is more than average variable cost. So ATC is more than AVC. Why? Because AVC plus AFC is equal to ATC. So the sum of average variable cost and average fixed cost is the average total cost. 2 plus 2.5 is 4.5, 1.33 plus 0.83 is 2.17, and so on. Also, guys, look at this, what is happening. It's going down, 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 and then up, up, up. So in a way, if you look at this, variable cost is going down here, down, and then up. But total cost is going down, 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 and then later it goes up. Okay, so both of these curves are kind of going to be U-shaped, but this curve has to be more than this curve because ATC is more than AVC. And then secondly, ATC is rising later. So AVC rises on 130 units and ATC rises later like 155 units or something. Okay, I'm just showing you this just for clarity. अभी हम graph बनाएंगे, सब कुछ समझ आएगा. So let's draw the graph, guys. Okay, first of all, I'm going to draw my marginal cost curve. Is this how the shape of marginal cost graph is? Do you all agree with me? Yep. And we know this, that law of diminishing returns happen. Now AVC, I'm going to make like this. AVC will fall, and as soon as it meets marginal cost, it's going to go up. Okay, ATC will fall as soon as it starts to as soon as it meets MC, it starts to go up. But the gap between ATC and AVC is shrinking. Okay, so I'm going to make these three graphs like this, and I'm going to write the observation. Number one, ATC is above AVC. Number two, ATC and AVC are above MC. In fact, I should say when, I missed the word when ATC and AVC are above MC, they fall, or and when ATC and AVC are below MC, they rise. Okay, and the third thing we will write is the gap between ATC and AVC is shrinking. So that's the third thing, guys. So let's talk about all these three things. Okay, can somebody help me why ATC is above AVC? Why is ATC above AVC? Anyone? RS, why is ATC above AVC? Very good job, Isha. Anyone else? Very good job, Ekta. Because the gap between, guys, the gap between ATC and AVC is AFC. Okay. Why is ATC above AVC? Because it includes, ATC includes AFC. Do you guys agree with me? Make sense? Are we good? Exactly, Aris. You're right. Aris, ये बताओ, why is the gap between ATC and AVC shrinking? Why is this true? Why is the gap between ATC and AVC shrinking? Anyone? What's the reason? No. Why is the gap between ATC and AVC shrinking? Because Danish is right, Gaurav is right, because AFC is falling. When AFC continuously, look at this, guys, AFC is continuously falling. So the gap between these graphs is shrinking. AFC is much smaller later on than before. Will these graphs ever meet? Guys, will these graphs ever meet? No, they won't, because AFC can never be zero. It will be very close to zero, but never be zero. Make sense? RS, does that make sense, guys? So AFC is the gap between ATC and AVC, and that's why the gap is shrinking. Okay? So, but they will never meet because AFC can never be, it can approach zero, but never be zero. Number one. Number two is, let's talk about this point. So why is this when ATC is above AVC, or when, in other words, when MC, I should have written like that, when MC is below AVC, AVC is falling. Why is when MC below AVC, AVC falls? And when MC is above AVC, AVC goes up. Anyone? Can somebody answer this question? Why is MC below AVC, AVC is going down? The reason is about the average. Remember, we said this when we do worse than the average falls. When MC is below AVC, AVC is falling. Isn't that true, guys? When MC is below ATC, ATC is falling, right? And when we do better than the average rises. When MC is above AVC, when your extra cost is more than the average cost, it makes the average cost go up. Do you guys get that? Does that make sense? So the idea goes is that remember the test score argument that we raised, that, you know, like if your first test you do let's say 20, your average will be 20. In the second test, if you get, let's say 24, your average will become, total will become 44. 44 divided by 2, your average will become 22. Why is your average going up? Because your average was 20, you did better than the average, your average will go up. Make sense? Do you guys get that? So when MC is below ATC and AVC, it is pulling down the average. When MC is above ATC, AVC, it pulls up the average. Make sense? VC is, guys, variable cost and total cost is the same thing. Total cost minus variable cost is the total fixed cost. So variable cost is basically the cost of hiring one extra worker. So variable cost was 0 with no worker, 60 with one worker, 120 with two workers, 120 plus 75 was 195. So variable cost is total cost. Do we get this idea, guys? Are we getting these diagrams then? Is there anyone with a question about this? Does that make sense? So you wanted to see a page, right? Are you okay with that now? Last part, Sana, can you tell me exactly what last part? This part, does it make sense? This one? Okay, look at this. Look closely, guys. When your marginal cost, which is the each incremental unit cost, is lower than the average, okay? Your average cost was higher than the marginal cost, then the average cost will go down. But the marginal cost is greater than the average cost is going up. So when the margin is above average, it makes the average to go up. When the margin is below the average, it makes the average to go down. That's what we're saying here. Make sense? And somebody was asking me about this diagram, guys. Total variable cost starts from 0. But if I add total variable cost plus fixed cost, I get my total cost. So the graph of total variable cost and total cost are parallel to each other, which means the slope of TC and TVC should be the same, which means MC is the slope of TVC and TC. Is that fine? Does that make sense, everyone? Any other questions that we have? Haris, do we have a question? Are we good, guys? Yes, Haris, please ask me. Anyone else also have a question? Because we're done with the discussion, so I can answer the questions, please. The marginal cost is 2 for the first one. Yes. Change in total cost is 60 over change in output is 30. Change in total cost is always 60. Change in variable cost is always 60. These guys are just the same except for the fact that $75 less. Make sense? So marginal cost is the slope of both total cost and variable cost. Haris, marginal cost is not equal to variable cost. Marginal cost is the slope of total variable cost, which means it's the rate at which total cost and total variable cost are changing. Do we get that? Does that make sense? Exactly. It's the rate at which. Exactly, Habib, that's right. When MC increases by more than the average, it drags the average up. When MC is below average, it drags the average down. That's a good way to put it, Habib. That's exactly what it is. Very good, guys. So we're done, guys. Thank you, everyone.